What's up?
What's going on?
How we doing? I'm doing great. Doing awesome. Pretty beautiful day here.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. How do you get Joe Milton to kind of relax a little bit and get in the flow of things?
I think we just keep coaching him and give him continually put him in situations where he's got to make decisions and stuff. And I think that always the first preseason game for every player, especially in a new system, you got kind of a heightened sense of awareness and probably a little bit of anxiety. And I think you saw throughout the game that he did calm down. And, we believe in what he can do. And I think it's just really just about reps.
You noticed that during the game and feel like, let me go chat with him a little bit just to get him going?
I just think you do anything that you can to try to help guys when they're playing. And I was in the box, so I didn't really have any contact with him on the sideline.
Dallas Cowboys. Can you talk about the decision to not play Tyler Booker, where he's in his development as a young guy? I know offensive line, former offensive line coach, now offensive coordinator. Many reps those young guys need, and also can you talk about what you saw from Nate Thomas?
Well, I think in regards to Book, I think it's really just more about you kind of look at those things week to week and how much contact you've had during the week. And obviously during that week, we had a really long physical practice with the Rams and their starting group. And so it's really more about workload per week than really anything else. And so, we felt like that was the right decision to make for that week. And we'll assess those type of decisions again this week. In regards to Nate, Nate's he's holding it in the road, and you see his ability and you see his growth, and it's definitely been fun to watch, because I feel like he's come a long way since we started the off-season program.
Did it surprise you? Anything? I mean, here's a guy who was a 7th-round pick last year, didn't play as a rookie, and he's thrown out there with the starters. And from our point of view, he doesn't look like a fish out of water. And I don't know how you look at it, but yes.
No, I'd say that he's doing well. In response to does it surprise me? I think that I've gotten to the point, I think this is year 20 for me doing this, where I've tried to reserve judgment until you see players in pads and then after that you try to reserve a little more judgment until you see guys playing games, just because I think it's easy when you're running around with just helmets on or whatever, say like, I think this guy's this, I think that guy's that. I think when you're playing a position like offensive line especially, you want to see guys in pads and you want to see how they respond to adversity and really high pressure situations in games. And no, I'm not really surprised just because, you tend to see that almost every year with somebody.
Todd Archer with ESPN. What was the perspective for you like in the box? Have you ever been when's the last time you were upstairs?
I don't know the answer to that question. It's been kind of a long time. It was good. You definitely can see a lot of things up there. And I tend to try to think of my mindset, particularly during the season and during training camp, is trying to have like a 30,000-foot perspective so that you can help guide the ship and lead. And I think that you definitely get that type of view from the box. Everybody loves being on the sideline because you get a real feel for the players in the game and all that. But there's definitely value to being in the box, and I'm looking forward to continuing to grow that way.
Did you call down a bunch? Did you not call down much? How'd you?
Well, I mean, we're all in the headset, so it's kind of different than like when I was a graduate assistant at Boise State. It was like, hey, give me the phone so I can talk to this guy. Now it's kind of a free-flowing conversation, and so you're constantly, Shadi and I constantly talking in between series. Hey, here's where we're going to go here. Here's where we're going to go there. This is what we need to. The interesting thing about the preseason is you're not necessarily saying, this is how we're going to attack these guys. In some senses, you're saying this is what we need to put on tape so we can coach it and so we can help the players get better at something that we want to improve on.
I'm sure with the Athletic, going back to Saturday's game, just when you watch the game over again, what did you think of Bill Knopf?
I think that just like watching him throughout training camp, he's another one of those guys that when the pads come on, you see something. And he's certainly got some instincts and plays fast. He's got a little bit of a slasher. I thought he did a lot of good things.
Joe Hoyt, Dallas Morning News. We talked with Brian Schottenheimer last week about the wide receiver 3 battle and all that. And what do you want to see from Jalen Tolbert moving forward the rest of the offseason?
I think what you love to about Jalen Tolbert is what you'd love to continue to see is that the guy is super consistent. He's selfless. He's all about the team. He's into doing the dirty work, and he's also has the ability to make plays. So that's, seeing him on special teams and all those other things. That's what you want to see is the best version of JT. And to me, that's the definition of that.
And then you talk about being in the box. Brian Schottenheimer, first-time head coach, you obviously first-time OC. Being in that kind of support role in terms of play calling and what you see, what have you kind of leaned on, I guess, in terms to learn how to be that kind of support role for Brian Schottenheimer and kind of help him?
I think the biggest thing, not necessarily, because I think when you're coaching offensive line, a lot of times you're giving some of those type of input in between series. I think the bigger picture part of it, what you're looking at is, are we having a breakdown on the outside in regards to run, or are we getting a look that we need to get back to an action that's going to take advantage of that? And then just he and I continuing to grow and learn each other, which has been a really awesome experience for me. That's, to me, one of the biggest things that we've got to accomplish during the preseason is how do we get our communication 100% elite, which I think that we're definitely headed that direction. And then how can I support him the best? Because that's really what my job is on game day, is to help find solutions, because aside from just being the play caller, he's also the head football coach. So he's got to try to figure out when we're using timeouts and try to make decisions on special teams and critical decisions that the defense needs his support on as well. So my job is to make his job easier.
Hey, Klayton, Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. Keeping to the wide receivers really quickly. Obviously, Joe Milton had a couple throws get away from him. Several of those were towards Flournoy. But when you're looking at the film from Flournoy, what jumped out most from you from that preseason opener?
From Flo? The first thing that jumps out to me is that broken tackle on the sideline. It was good to see some of the strength and him pull through that. But outside of that, I think it's the same thing that you see with all the players is, okay, we think we know exactly what we're supposed to be doing, and then all of a sudden you start thinking about other things because you're wearing a uniform and you're playing against another team and it's not practice anymore. And so we called it in the offensive unit meeting of just learning how to color between the lines a little bit better and some of the finer detail of the things. And that's what you're doing when you get to this part of training camp is, for the most part, your installs are done. What are the wrinkles you're going to add, and how do you find the absolute most amount of detail that you can execute within what you've already installed?
Quick follow-up. How enjoyable is it to have such a great problem of depth at wide receiver? Because we're talking about Flournoy, and then there are others like Turpin and Cropper and Tolbert and Jonathan Mingo, but then Trayshawn Holden looks like he transferred some of what he's been doing in camp over to the preseason opener against the Rams. What's the challenge there?
It's been fun to watch that group. Yeah, that's what you're trying to build in every room is a lot of really difficult decisions for the personnel guys and the coaching staff, and incredible amounts of competition. And so that being what we want this team and organization to be 100% about is competition. That's our calling card, is what the receiving room is doing right now, and making it very difficult for people to figure out who's going to be, what number, whatever. So I love it. I think it's great.
Nick Harris, four-star Telegram. The offensive line created a lot of clean pockets for Milton, a lot more efficiency in the run game than on Tuesday. What was different about Saturday's game versus Tuesday?
I think that there were some things that we certainly wanted to clean up from watching the joint practice. And I think for the most part, there were some times that we were able to do that. A couple of guys made some adjustments that were good. I just think also the flow of a game is a lot different than a practice where you're saying like, hey, this group's going to be in there for 4 plays. The mentality of a football game is like, you better do it over and over and over and over and over. And so I think that's one thing that we tried to really hammer home on offense this year is, it's like you're playing a game of horse, like prove it, do it again. And so you're not always going to have perfect plays, but in a football game, you can wear people down and have the ability to come back from something that happened 8 or 9 plays ago. So that's, to me, the exciting part of the preseason is let's figure out who's got some stamina. Let's figure out who can bounce back from a bad play. The running back room? I think it's a good group as well. I think I said last time I was up here, I was excited about really the depth of the entire group. The veteran presence of Miles and Javonte has been fun, especially for the two rookies, and then Deuce kind of being somewhere in between. I think those guys really care about each other and are doing a good job of helping each other, which is to me the sign of a pretty healthy room in there. I think Derek Foster's done a nice job.
Tommy Yarsh, DallasCowboys.com. Brian was talking about how he wants to see a little bit more of TJ Bass at center this week. What is it about his skill set that makes you guys want to see him get some more run?
I think the biggest thing is that he's done a really nice job at guard, and so we're all competing for jobs, and so we feel like we know that he gives us a pretty high level. Or at least very, very efficient play at guard, and where he lacks the most experience is at center. And so, it behooves us to put him there and say, hey, you need to be able to do this, because the more people you have that can snap the football on game day, obviously, the less likely you are of a complete mess. So him being able to get in there and do that is really just trying to well-round his game.
Garrett Podell, CBS Sports. Klayton, how has Javonte Williams stood out amongst the group in the running back team?
I think experience and what's the word that I'm looking for here? Wisdom, almost. I know that he's not like a real old player, but he's been through some things in the league. He's had really good years. He's had the devastating injury that he's had to bounce back from. So you see a really good level of maturity in the guy. And you really see that the most when he's helping his teammates and stuff like that. It's not one of those deals where he's like, I better not help anybody because I'm looking over my shoulder. I mean, I think he's very secure in who he is and a mature guy that has good wisdom.
Dave Lofker, Cowboys Radio Network, 105.3 The Fan. Klayton, usually, obviously, you get a lot of vanilla stuff. Preseason game, especially the first moment. I think the first play they bring 5, first third down play they bring 5. Did that kind of, I don't want to say wake up call, but all of a sudden you go, okay, this way it's going to find out?
No, I thought it was great. I mean, I think you do want to be challenged a little bit. Obviously you'd hate to go into a game and there was just all sorts of stuff flying and hitting the wall in the preseason, because you want ultimately to be able to coach off of it. But no, you want to be challenged by those type of things. And I thought that the Rams did a really nice job with balance on that of, hey, we need to work some of our stuff and we also need to be able to block and tackle and all those other things, which is the same type of thing that we're trying to do, but we're trying to figure out how to block and run and catch.
Wrap it up with Brad.
Brad Sham, Cowboys Radio 105.3 The Fan. Regarding Bass at center, do you find his arm length problematic?
No, I don't think that. I think probably the further you go interior on the offensive line, a little bit less of an issue that is. Not that, I mean, there's guys that have played that are really, really excellent players that haven't had really, really long limbs. But just being a former center myself, I've always felt like the closer you are to the defense, the less issues there are with arm length, and the further you move to the outside, and now there's going to be a little bit more space, that ends up sometimes becoming more of an issue. So I think that it's something that he can do. It's just, we just got to put him in that situation so he feels comfortable doing it.
Things like the Rams 5'11" center.
What's that?
You need to look at the Rams 5'11" center.
That they're playing with right now? Oh, that's awesome. Love it. What's that? Oh, no, I just meant for them. Yeah. Yep.